Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I just wanted to give you a little update / review video of my Mishimoto aluminum radiator that I've had installed for a couple weeks now. So talking about the install, if you watch my previous video of that, you can see that it's pretty involved, and definitely compared to what I'm used to in other tuner cars. You know, I'm used to maybe taking out 2 to 4 bolts, a couple hose clamps, and then you can lift the radiator right out of the car. Well, this is slightly different. It's more realistically about a 5 to 6 hour job. You know, you have to take off the headlights, you have to take off the front bumper, the front crash bar, you know, the radiator support, everything just to be able to get to the radiator. So it is much more involved. So while the Fiesta is awesome, light, fun to drive, one of the major drawbacks of it being such a compact car is working on it. That's one of the things I've found spending more time with it. It's just, everything is so compact, the clearances are like non-existent. So when working on this car, you can kind of just expect everything to take 5 times longer than it would on you know, some other tuner cars. So it's one of the drawbacks of it being such a, you know, small, light car, but kind of is what it is. I did run into an issue with the install. This little bleeder screw right here was the issue. It actually came with this little bleeder valve here, and this was actually leaking. So I called Mishimoto, they sent me a new one, but it did take a couple days to get here. So I went and picked up this little screw right here from my auto parts store, and it obviously fixed the leak. So just a heads up, the screw pattern for this bleeder screw is an M10 by 1.0. I did watch their video and it wasn't very thorough with what to do with this screw. There were no torque specs or anything like that. It just said to not over tighten it because it is a tapered thread and you could damage it. So I tried to replicate what they did in the video, just slightly tightened it. It was leaking, so I tightened it a little bit more. It was still leaking. I didn't want to damage a thread, so at that point I emailed Mishimoto and I informed them that I think the bleeder screw was the culprit and the reason for the leak. So they sent me out a new one, but it took a couple days to get here, so that's why I went and picked up that plug. So when I took out the bleeder screw, what I found was, so it came with Teflon tape, like I said, and what happened was the Teflon tape actually got wedged into these little ports. So there's little ports here that allow you to bleed the air out of the system. But the Teflon tape got shoved into those ports and it just seized up this mechanism, so it no longer worked, and that's why it was leaking. So they did send me a new one. I could put it in there, but I'm fine. The system's bled. That plug, I won't have to worry about it. It's not gonna leak. So just giving you a little heads up, if you guys do install this radiator, just be sure to check that the Teflon tape isn't gonna be wedged in there because it will cause a leak like it did with mine. Finally, how does it perform? Well, honestly, I couldn't be happier. So I did recently install the Dead Hook Motorsports race front mount intercooler, and that is much larger than the factory intercooler or any of the factory fitment intercoolers. And one of the things that I personally saw was my coolant temps did rise on average about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So I typically would sit between 185, 195. The very first day I had the intercooler installed, I was cruising on the freeway at 70 miles per hour, and I was seeing my coolant temps go up, you know, around 205 degrees. Before installing the intercooler, I probably would have been at 180 degrees versus the 205. But on a positive note, I didn't see the car ever go above 206 after the intercooler was installed, and that was when it was still really hot out, you know, 95 degrees, something like that. But after installing the new radiator, you know, the intercooler is still there, haven't changed anything else, just added that radiator, it dropped it back down. You know, now cruising on the freeway, instead of at, you know, 200 plus, it's at about 180. So last week was the first triple-digit day here. I took the car out and I drove around the city, stop and go, stoplights, that kind of thing, and I never saw the car go over 192 degrees. And that was, you know, doing a couple pulls, like I said, stop and go, And then that same day, I took it on the freeway, cruising on the freeway at about 70 miles per hour. It was staying around 180, 182 degrees. So it definitely is a major improvement over the factory unit. But obviously that factory unit is tiny. Just to give you a heads up, so the cooling capacity of the factory unit is right about 1 gallon, where this one is right under, it's roughly 2 gallons. So, it is obviously holding much more coolant. This isn't something that I care about at all, but maybe someone out there does care and it is a concern for them. But you are adding an extra gallon of liquid, so you're adding roughly 8 pounds to the front of the car. Like I said, I really don't care at all, but might be some information that someone cares about. Here we are driving around today. It's not as warm as it has been over the last week or so, but like my temperature gauge says it's 83 degrees, and I'm sitting at a stoplight, and here's my coolant temps. While they're not, hasn't gone over 190 while I've been driving around. So, I'm just sitting here idling. It's staying at about, 188 degrees. Actually dropped the coolant temp. Coolant temp is going down, went down to 180 with that pull. So I was sitting at 188 at the stoplight, did a little pull, and even with doing the pull, that airflow was more than enough to cool it down. I just wanted to clarify about my increased coolant temps after installing the new intercooler. So I was told by Russ that I shouldn't have removed that plastic air shroud that goes basically directly behind the front grille. It's just an air shroud that helps funnel more air into the radiator. So I was told not to remove that. I did, because I didn't like the fitment of it. With basically, it was kind of bumping into my blow-off valve. So I just removed it. While I might have not had such high increases in coolant temps with it, I'm still not running it now with the new radiator, and my coolant temps are lower than they ever have been. It's definitely a big improvement over the factory unit. I hear a lot of people without larger intercoolers saying that they're, overheating, even just stop and go traffic, or when they beat on the car, they're seeing 230 degrees plus. So, I haven't seen anything over 192 degrees so far, no matter what I've done to the car, with, again, on a triple-digit day. So, for me, it's definitely a big improvement. I'm happy with it. The only downside with it is the install time. It's a little time-consuming, but to me, it's worth it. I would definitely recommend it. Anyway, guys, if you liked the video or found it helpful at all, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That'd be greatly appreciated. Now, I do have a couple major upgrades coming within the next month or so, so be sure to subscribe for those, and thanks for watching.